How many times have you heard that the Middle Ages was a dark, backward time in history? Well, prepare to rethink what you know. Welcome to a journey of debunking some of the most common misconceptions about the Middle Ages. The media has often painted this era as a period of darkness, ignorance, and savagery, but is that really the case? Were people living in the Middle Ages really unaware of the world beyond their immediate surroundings? Did they believe the earth was flat? And what about the role of women and the church during this time? These often repeated narratives have shaped our perception of the Middle Ages, but are they an accurate reflection of the past? This video aims to challenge these misconceptions and bring to light the truth that often lies obscured by the shadows of false narratives. So, hang on tight as we journey back in time to uncover the truth behind the top 10 things the media got wrong about the Middle Ages. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any new material. At number 10, we have the belief that the Middle Ages was a Dark Age. This term, Dark Ages, is often thrown around to describe a period of supposed cultural and intellectual stagnation. But let's get our facts straight. This label is a gross misinterpretation of the era. Yes, the fall of the Western Roman Empire might have led to some political instability, but it didn't plunge the world into a pit of ignorance. Quite the opposite. The Middle Ages saw a blossoming of scientific and cultural development. This was the time when the foundations of modern universities were laid down, when brilliant minds like Thomas Aquinas and Dante Alighieri thrived. It was an era of architectural marvels, of Gothic cathedrals and castles. Moreover, advancements in agriculture and technology were also significant during this period. So, it's time we stop picturing the Middle Ages as a time of darkness and ignorance. So, it turns out, the Dark Ages weren't so dark after all. Coming in at number 9 is the misconception that the plague was everywhere. Yes, the plague was a deadly adversary, causing panic and despair when it struck. However, it was not a relentless, omnipresent force throughout the Middle Ages. Think of it as a terrible storm that occasionally swept over lands, not a permanent cloud casting a shadow over the era. It had its times and places, but it was not ceaseless. As we can see, the plague was not a permanent fixture of the Middle Ages. Number 8 on our list is the belief that people in the Middle Ages were ignorant of the world around them. Far from it. Travel and trade were commonplace during these times. Merchants, scholars, and adventurers crisscrossed continents, bringing back with them tales and knowledge of distant cultures and lands. This exchange of ideas and cultures enriched societies, pushing the boundaries of their understanding of the world. So, ignorance of the world. Definitely another myth. At number 7, we tackle the belief that people in the Middle Ages had incredibly short lifespans. But let's clear the air here. While it's true that life expectancy was indeed lower, this was largely due to high infant mortality rates. If people managed to survive infancy and childhood, they had a fair shot at reaching their 60s, and often even beyond. This may come as a surprise, but our ancestors were rather resilient. So, the short lifespan theory doesn't quite hold up. Number 6 on our list is the infamous flat Earth belief. Despite popular belief, the idea that the Earth was flat wasn't a universally accepted notion during the Middle Ages. In fact, many educated individuals were well aware that the Earth was round. Scholars like Thomas Aquinas and Roger Bacon wrote about a spherical Earth, reflecting a common understanding among the literate and educated. So, the flat Earth belief. Another myth debunked. Coming in at number 5 is the perception that the Middle Ages was a time of barbaric and uncivilized people. But let's clear the air here. The Middle Ages were not devoid of rules, laws, or social order. In fact, the period saw the establishment of significant legal codes and systems of governance. There was a clear social hierarchy, and chivalry wasn't just about knights and damsels, it was a code of conduct. So, the barbaric and uncivilized stereotype. Well, that's another misconception debunked. Number 4 on our list is the idea that the church suppressed science. This narrative has been prominent throughout history, but it's not quite as black and white as it seems. During the Middle Ages, the church was often a patron of the sciences. It sponsored scholars, funded research, and many monks were actually scientists themselves. They dedicated their lives to studying the natural world, writing down their observations, and making notable contributions to fields like astronomy and medicine. Consider the likes of Roger Bacon, a Franciscan friar and philosopher who made significant advancements in optics and the scientific method. Or the Benedictine monk Bede, who was a respected historian and astronomer. These men, and countless others like them, were able to pursue their scientific endeavors within the framework of their religious vocations. So, the church suppressing science? Not quite the case. Instead, it often played a pivotal role in encouraging and advancing scientific knowledge during the Middle Ages. At number 3, we have the belief that people in the Middle Ages had no concept of personal hygiene. Now, let's clear the air on this one. Contrary to the popular belief, medieval folks did value cleanliness. They had bathing houses in towns and many homes had private bath areas. Perfumes and scented oils. Oh, they were quite the rage. Moreover, cleanliness was often associated with good health and spiritual purity. So, the no personal hygiene belief. Another myth busted. Number 2 on our list is the idea that women had no rights during the Middle Ages. Now, while it's true that gender equality wasn't quite up to today's standards, it's a myth to say women were entirely powerless. In fact, they could and did own property. Women often managed estates, ran businesses, and some even ruled kingdoms. They were not just passive bystanders but active participants in medieval society. So, the women had no rights belief. Another misconception debunked. And finally, at number 1, we have the iconic knights in shining armor. This image, deeply embedded in our collective imaginations, paints a romanticized picture of gallant heroes rescuing damsels in distress. However, the reality was far less glamorous. Knights were warriors, yes, but their armor was functional, not shiny. It was heavy, often dirty, and designed for survival, not for style. So, knights in shining armor. More myth than reality. And there we have it, the top 10 things the media got wrong about the Middle Ages. We have debunked misconceptions, from the idea of a dark age, to the portrayal of knights in shining armor. We've uncovered truth about the plague, the alleged ignorance of world affairs, and the supposed short lifespan of people. We've shattered the myth of the flat earth belief, the idea of barbaric and uncivilized people, and the notion that the church suppressed science. We've also shed light on personal hygiene practices and the rights of women in the Middle Ages. This journey through history serves as a reminder of the importance of questioning commonly held beliefs. We must strive to separate fact from fiction, to understand our past better. After all, history is a complex tapestry, and we owe it to ourselves to delve deeper than surface narratives. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. Remember, history isn't always as it's portrayed in the media. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.